Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. This is really a special one. David Crane at the National Video Game Museum discussing the creation of the top-down racer Grand Prix. Now, if you don't know, David Crane is the legendary programmer of Pitfall for the Atari 2600. Well, in this video, he gives you some behind-the-scenes, really deep dive on the creation of Grand Prix. This is really cool, guys. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you so much, David Crane and John Hardy, the co-founder of the National Video Game Museum, for letting me record this video, guys. You don't want to miss this one, so check it out.
You finally qualified for the classic, the Grand Prix. Grand Prix by Activision, a video racing game you play on your Atari video computer system. Every video racing game till now was a trial run for Grand Prix. Grand Prix puts the feel of a Formula racer in your hands, the sound and fury of a real race in your head. But don't get carried away. It's only a game. Or is it? Grand Prix by Activision.
Why do your graphics look better than most of the other games? So we decided to, and I have found that when you write an article, the more technical, the better. People eat it up when it's more technical. So this is a semi-technical discussion on some of the techniques that we use to do some of the crazier pieces of art. And I always have to explain to people who don't know that no, we didn't draw this. Well, what do you mean you didn't draw it? It's a piece of art in the game. No, you can't draw art on the Atari 2600. You have to massage it.
You're in essence writing an algorithm to create an image.
Right. Well.
Do you want before you get started?
I
That's
had
good.
it here.
Is he ready?
Oh, that's right. We're waiting on him.
You good there? Yes, sir.
I'm good.
Yeah.
The best description I heard of it is I was having a discussion the other day with ChatGPT
Yes.
about Atari 2600 graphics.
Yes.
And it said to me, he said, what you're describing sounds very much like you're sculpting an image by doing the techniques that we do. I thought that was pretty good. That made sense to me.
That's because somebody wrote that very thing in an article somewhere and
Yep.
ChatGPT picked it up.
Are you saying
Are you saying
that I wasn't
ChatGPT is not
talking to
conscious?
human intelligence?
Why, I never.
Really, God, nervous some people.
Some of you asked, but we do have our games for sale,
Yes.
and we do have a few 7,800 pluses. I'm sure you all have systems to play them on, but sometimes at shows people ask, boy, if I had a system, I'd buy your game, and so we start carrying a few of the new 7,800 plus systems in case anyone wants a system to play our games on.
Because what few people don't realize is both the 2600 plus and the 7800 plus will play both 2600 and 7800 games.
Everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
It was actually a shock to me when I found that. I was like, so you're selling the same product?
Yes.
In two separate boxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
That's a lot of Atari.
And now the new Pac-Man edition, right?
Yes, and now 5 colors.
Yellow and
But isn't it the old Pac-Man?
Hideously yellow.
Yes, that is some yellow, I'll tell you.
Does it come with a
Pac-Man
Pac-Man cartridge?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is it the original? one or is
It's the original
It's the
Pac-Man
original
and
Pac-
some more modern
Oh,
interpretation
right,
on the same
right,
cartridge.
right,
Oh,
Like Mr.
Right, because the modern interpretation plays in the 7800 mode.
And the
Okay.
Atari 2600 one was eating the pancakes.
And the Atari
Yeah.
2600 one is in there too. You can play it.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see where
The guy on the left. There's something wrong with the guy on the left, Dan.
Stage left?
What is that?
I'm stage right.
Maybe you.
I think.
What is stage right? Is something
Gentleman
wrong?
on this side.
I always now
Want me to lean over?
Closer to the middle.
You're being blocked by someone in the crowd, I think.
Tall people.
See, I don't want to move from my seat because I view right down the middle there. Huh?
You're good. I've never hidden behind things.
All right, well,
6'5".
since we have nothing to do, I'll show pictures of my dogs.
Yeah.
I did have a question about the boxes for the new games. Do you produce them all mass at the same time because of the serial numbers, or do you print them on the fly?
Every game is manufactured to order, so as the serial numbers increase, they get a different serial number burned into the ROM,
Right.
and then put on the cartridge, on the box, and the certificate of authenticity.
But we do print, 500 boxes.
Right.
And then Dave does.
I wondered, because I have a little experience in that kind of crap from the company I used to work for, so I was curious how you handled the serial numbers.
Yeah, Dave's the expert at that.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of cryptographic issues or elements inside that ROM cartridge.
I thought it was cool with the scanning the QR code, upload the score and whatnot. I stink at them, but
Yes,
I love
and
it.
we learned something.
Yeah.
A Google Pixel phone cannot read QR code. Yep, we've had many people report.
One of the more recent OS updates, I hope they've fixed it.
Yeah.
But on your Google phone, it's also Google Glass or
Yeah.
something.
Google Lens can do it, but the OS can't do it. You get an error if you try to do it with the OS, and you have to run Lens, and then it'll work.
Well, the first woman who reported it, it sent her to
Yeah.
a site in
In
Yemen.
Abu Dhabi
Abu
or
Dhabi,
something.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she was like, what is
NSA showed
this
up at our
site?
door.
Yeah.
Poor woman.
Also, plus for keeping the patch thing
There we
up.
go.
I love those.
That's what I was gonna ask, is it was the same thing, is this like a recreation of the, what was it called, not the Heroes Club? No.
Adventurers?
Adventures Club, you submit your, because remember my wife asked me, did you ever get any of those? And I'm
I
like,
should
yeah,
have
but
brought
they're
the
long
patches, they're
gone.
probably over the other room.
Well, there's a display right on the other side of this wall.
Yeah, but our patches.
But we have patches.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
yours?
we
Oh,
brought
okay.
Yeah, we have new patches for all the games.
Did they say they're ready?
Yeah, we're ready to roll, so.
Okay.
All right,
They
great.
didn't say rolling yet.
Yes, we are.
Rolling.
We're rolling.
Hey,
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, so welcome to the museum, and I think most of you have probably been here before. I would ask that everybody put their phones on silent and keep from going off during their presentation. These guys really need no introduction, but obviously Dave Crane, one of the co-founders of Activision. Gary and Dan Kitchen, both prolific game designers, and we're part of Activision New Jersey. And if you're only thinking 2600, don't. These guys have a storied history as well on the computer side, which I mentioned in one of my emails to some of the groups. Dan and Gary both wrote games for Apple, for Hayden Software. Dave Crane helped design the OS for the 800, along with doing some software. So, without further ado, thank them for coming here tonight.
Thank you, guys. So we wanted to, as I was saying before we got started, we wanted to do a presentation that we thought would be of interest to the hardcore 2600 fans, people who really, think of it as more than just looking at a game. They think about, how did you do it? Why do some of those graphics look so spectacular on the platform? And we're going to show you 3 examples of graphics that were done in 2600 that are extraordinary, and we're going to show you how hard they were to do, so people can really grasp, the effort we go through. And we're also going to show you a little bit of a proprietary tool that we use internally to do the graphics, and that's the part where we're going to ask for no cameras, because we don't want to put that out there for everybody. So why don't we first, Mr. Crane is going to take us through an oldie but goodie, and one of the most incredible examples of a single object on the Atari 2600 that anybody has ever seen.
Yeah, even back when I was at Atari, we were doing things that the Atari 2600 was never meant to do. In fact, I was working on something when I felt a presence behind me, and I turned around, and it was Jay Miner, the designer of the TIA chip. And he was just shaking his head and frowning. And I said, "So, Jay, what's up?" And he said, "What you're doing up there, I had no idea my chip could do that." So we were doing things that the designers of the chip had no idea that it could be done. And that's how we were able to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, because the Atari 2600 was really designed by Atari to do Tank, which came out in the combat cartridge, and Pong. Two of their arcade games, they wanted to put both of them, wanted to sell a separate cartridge for both of them once you bought the machine. So, and in Pong, you've got the two paddles and a ball, and in Tank, you've got two tanks shooting a missile at each other with a blocky playfield to get in your way. So when I'm often asked, what is your favorite game, the favorite game you ever did, I often do come back to Grand Prix because it was the hardest. It was the hardest and the trickiest that I had to do to make this happen, and I'm going to show you how it happened. Right arrow did not work.
Did you break something?
I don't know. Okay.
There you go now.
I have to click on the little arrow over here.
I don't know why.
So this is Grand Prix, in case you haven't played it or seen it. And it's basically a gray racetrack. And one of the funniest things I've learned between this and Freeway is that two of the most colorful games I ever did were on a gray background. And everybody at Atari used to make purple and magenta and chartreuse and all these different funny colors in their games to try to make their games colorful. And I learned that you do the gray background and then the colors just pop. And that's why one of the reasons Grand Prix looks so good. So it's done in strips. You can see that there's bushes at the top, and those bushes are moved to simulate motion. And you've got your car, which is the middle one, and then I see it's the red one in this case, and 4 bands of other cars that become your enemies. So, brief tutorial of the Atari 2600 and what it's capable of. Basically, at its highest resolution, you get 100 pixels across, 160 pixels across. That's the highest resolution. And there's only 2 8-bit moving objects that can be on any given scan line, and 3 1-bit objects, which are the missiles for each tank, and the ball was a separate one, had a little extra capability. The playfield blocks are all 4 pixels per bit, and there's only 40 of them. There's really only 20 of them, and they either get repeated or reflected, but that's neither here nor there. Just think of it as being 4 pixel blocks. And it had 128 bytes of RAM, all of which was erased when you turned it off, so there was no memory. That's why this comic, which is one of my favorites, is absolutely true, that the Atari 2600 has no memory. And the other thing is, the way the hardware was written is, if you are moving an object across the screen and it hits the right edge, it goes 1 pixel past the right edge, you actually see that pixel show up on the left edge. There's an actual wraparound of the hardware images. And that wraparound killed this game. It made this game almost impossible. So let's just look at some pictures I've done before. So to do this kind of thing, you do it in bands. There's the score band, and then there's the playfield band, and then there's, I guess that's the end for combat. And the 8-bit object gets moved into place, where you can see there. It's on the left side of the screen. It's been moved into place prior to the screen starting, and it stays there. And then you're writing a loop that runs continuously, synchronous with the TV scan line, and you write a bunch of zeros to the object, and then you start writing a ROM pattern that you have that shows what a tank looks like, and then you write a bunch of zeros afterward. And the way you vertically position it is by writing fewer zeros at the top before you start putting out the actual ROM image. So its horizontal position is in hardware and it's fixed. And then you can make an object show up anywhere in that vertical band. Then there's a missile, and the ball isn't even affected here. So if you think about it, it's not a bitmap, it's a line bitmap. It's a single line bitmap, 1 set of pixels, 1 horizontal set of pixels. And it's not even all that, because you can only control 8 of them for player 0, 8 of them for player 1, and the 3 1-bit objects. And then by the time the TV scan line comes around again, you have to change all those, or else it just looks like vertical stripes. And in fact, if you ever unplugged a game from the 2600, you would see nothing but vertical stripes that were left over right where the program stopped when it was removed.
Yep.
Those are the values left, and it just repeats them all the way down. So yeah, I mean, you think, oh, if you got a bitmap, you can draw just about anything, right? Well, no, this is not a bitmap. It's
What
not
if you
even,
have 192 bitmaps,
it's not even a whole line of data.
all in 1/16 of a second?
So you write blanks, and then the graphics from the ROM, obviously it's an 8-bit word in the ROM, and so that's just a bit pattern that looks like a tank. Then you make 8 of them, so they look like the tank can rotate, and you just decide in code which ROM table you're gonna use. And then the zeros continuing. Now, very quickly, the genius programmers at Atari, even before I got there, did Air Sea Battle. Now, what Air Sea Battle does, same thing, it's got that score at the top, and then it's got the play field. But if you see what they did was they took one of the player objects, and remember, it can exist in a horizontal position. In between these lines of color, they positioned it to a different place, then to a different place, then to a different place. And then the ROMs that were being shown, the ROM images represented different types of planes going different directions. But by repositioning that down the screen, and just remember, picture that tank again, it's this whole column. Well, you write that column and you put a bunch of different graphics in it, and then you move it in between where the zeros are. And now it looks like separate images. All of a sudden you can put a bunch of different images. Like with Freeway, I've got 10 lanes of traffic, and that's done using just one of these by positioning it in different places.
So think of one tall paper towel, piece of cardboard, and you cut and shift, cut and shift, cut and shift, and it's all really just one object. But by having blanks above and below each graphic image, you vertically separate them and they look like a bunch of objects.
Now, when Joe DeCure designed this part of the chip, he envisioned, like in Tank, that you would position that column and leave it there. Because there's only 2 tanks, so you would just have them in 2 different places. As they slowly move, you reposition them into different places. But he did that, and so he didn't even notice that the hardware, when it does that reposition, it turns off the video output for the first 8 pixels of a scan line, and it turns them to 0 as black. And so you see those little glitches along the left edge of the screen. That shows where that position actually occurred. And again, it turns off the graphics, which is a bad thing. It makes those ugly glitches. Well, actually, we use the fact that it turns off the image in other ways later. So anyway, it was very quickly that they figured out how to do a bunch of different screens. Oops. This is a video. Just as an aside, when you're firing from the downside, you're using the 2 missiles, which incidentally, in the hardware, the missiles are the same color as the player. So you see that the orange player shoots an orange missile and the green player shoots a green missile. And you'd see that in Tank as well. You could see which missile was whose based on its color. And that's actually tied into the hardware. You don't have a separate missile color, you have the player color, and the missile's the same color as the player.
So you can see what they were thinking. Here's a tank, here's a bullet.
Yes, exactly. So then, while Joe was doing this thing, he said, if I just move these 2 wires, I can actually generate multiple copies of that same thing. So in Gary's analogy, it's multiple rolls of paper towel that can be 2 of them close together, 2 of them far apart, 3 of them close together. You see the pattern. And combination of, I'm going to put each pixel out twice, so it's twice as wide, or 4 pixels per bit. And you'll see if you play combat and you go out to way to the later levels, you're going to see what they call squadrons of biplanes, which are the 3 biplanes flying together. They have the same graphics. If you watch them, they all animate the same, and they are at a fixed relation to each other because it's just this little trick in the hardware that makes that work. If he hadn't done that trick, the Atari 2600 would have been dead in 1979 because of all the things that we ended up doing using that trick. So you've got a squadron, or you've got, I think they called the other one the bomber. I use those terms later, so it's if you're using multiple copies of an object, it's using the squadron effect. And if you're making objects bigger horizontally, it can be either 2 bits per pixel or 4 bits per pixel, 4 pixels per bit,
Right.
or 2 pixels per bit of the graphics. So, I mean, that's the tutorial. Looking at Grand Prix, as I mentioned, we tended to work in bands. So we would write a program that puts out a yellow band and waits 12 lines. Okay? That was what you see here, this yellow line. Although in actuality, while I'm in that band, I'm loading graphics from a table to make those bushes. And if you notice, there's a lot of bushes there. We only have 2 objects. Well, they are exactly equidistant apart, so that if I have these 3 players and these 3 players, I get that many equidistant bushes. And I can move those and then do this, and this, and this.
And you may have seen that in a few 2600 games. Most recently, in Casey's Gold with the cactus.
Yeah.
Cactus and the railroad ties.
Yep.
Yeah. And nothing moves in a game. It's a single screen. Nothing moves in this game, but we give you the impression of motion and the speed by how fast I move those bushes. Simple as that. So the same thing happens with cars, as we'll see later, is your car does not move in Grand Prix. Your car is on the left edge and going up and down. Just for you guys, it's over here. And the only way it appears that we're moving is because the opposing cars are moving backwards at a speed that's relative to the difference between our 2 speeds. So we're doing the math in there. We're calculating the different speeds between there. But it's the same thing. It's the appearance of motion. It's fake. I do the road. I'm going to call your attention to something here. Gary asked the question, or mentioned the question, is so often, since the beginning of Activision, we were asked, why do your games look so much better than Atari's games? And I noticed it once when I was at a trade show and I was walking around Atari's booth, and all of these things were just this confusing mass of colors. Like I said, purples and magentas. And I love the colors that the Atari 2600 can make, but it makes some really ugly ones. And Atari was using them all just to be, for variation or whatever. Well, at Activision we said, there's a good green, there's a good blue, there's a good red, and a really nice yellow, and black. And we tended to just keep to those colors, some shading of them, but whatever. That's why these things generally look so good. But I had also learned in my engineering about an early television camera tube called an image orthicon, which generates black halo around every colored object. And it got eliminated by replacement of Vidicon, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But you see what that does is that makes a sharp color delineation between the yellow where the bushes are and the gray where the world is. And to do that, I just took one extra scan line, turned the color of background to black, waited a line, and continued. Started moving on. So creating a black line demarcation between the colors was one of the things that you don't know why it looks so good, but now you do. You see this very crisp delineation between changes in color on the TV screen. So then I wrote this loop of, I think it's 4, right? 4 loops showing the enemy cars and using one of the player objects, and my car, the red one, using the other one. The red one can move up and down. The other 4 are stuck in their rows.
Now, speaking as if I was not a programmer and I was looking at that, this is where he's gone off the rails right here. You mean to tell me that each of those 4 cars is one 8-bit object?
Yes.
That is complete and utter insanity. So he'll explain how.
You'll understand how it was done at some point here soon. So another black line, another yellow line, another bunch of bushes, and then we always have to have some sort of a GUI in a game, so I put in the time, so that's running starts at 0 and runs up, and when you reach the end, what is your time? You take a picture of the screen and you send it to Activision, and if it's a low enough number, they send you a patch for free.
But I heard they stopped doing
They
that
stopped
recently,
doing
so don't send in anything right now.
Well, they're owned by Microsoft now,
That's
so
right.
it's kind of hard.
And I ran out of room for the rest of the GUI that I wanted, so I modified the Activision kernel, which I wrote the first one anyway, and I put a number in it, and that's your game. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can have game select. The only reason it's repeated here. But, so we got these glitches. Let's look at the screen real closely. Look at the left edge of the screen. The glitches are because I'm repositioning the second player to be these 4 cars. That 8-bit player, it's got to be repositioned. And we know that there's a glitch when we do repositioning. But you'll also notice the wraparound, which is the technical term that was used back then, is every pixel that runs off the right side of the screen shows up immediately on the left side of the screen. And you'll see it in combat. Jet planes will just fly across the screen, and then they, everything is done. And when there's 3 of them, it comes and one of them shows up over here, then 2 of them, then 3 of them, because it's just exactly wrapping around at the 160 pixel boundary. So that's a problem, and we'll deal with that later. But we hated those glitches in the first place. And so what we actually did was we repositioned every object 0 amount every scan line. All right, so it's not moving, but the reposition hardware is executing, and so it fills in the glitches.
So if you can't get rid of the ugly lines, put them on every line,
You do an
and you get rid of the ugly lines.
Yeah.
I always thought that was one of the most brilliant things Activision ever did. Because you look at it and you go, where the hell are the lines?
Yep.
They're there.
However, some people do notice. They say, why are all Atari 2600 games shifted to the right?
Yeah. Right.
Because they are. They're this extra black boundary line. But better than that, where's the front end of the yellow car?
It's gone now.
It's gone because it's not just being covered up, the display circuitry in the TIA chip is off. It cannot display anything during those 8 pixels. So yes, we do wrap around, but we wrap around with an 8-pixel guard band. So we can mess with that. So now if we wanted to, if we had an 8-bit object, we could run that 8-bit object off the screen, and it would be showing up behind those glitches, and then when the 159th pixel disappears, we turn it off, we stop it. And so it moves smoothly off the screen. That's great. We can now do this. We can now move both directions off the screen, because if we go off the left edge, it wraps around to the right, but the right doesn't have, or vice versa. It basically, you can hide an 8-bit object behind 8 pixels of off display hardware. Great. Doesn't work for these things though.
Partially works.
It partially works. It helps.
Yes, it definitely helps.
So now, how do we make that Grand Prix car that you just looked, I guess, memorize the blue car? It's got front and back tires, thicker in the back. It's got a racing stripe down the middle. It's got shading on the body. It even has a little white for silver axle, okay? So how do we make that out of an 8-bit object? Well, what we do is, if you remember that squadron effect with those multiple copies, and the width effect that they used in the bomber thing, we changed those parameters on every scan line. So now I can have an object that it's 8 bits, but it's being repeated twice. And then on the very next line, it's 8 bits, but it's 4 pixels per bit. And so we're changing that on every single scan line. So this is the ROM image for that car. This is what it looks like. It's only 8 bits. There's no magic going on. It's just 8 bits.
Change new size.
But you change the size. And so this car starts out with a new size of single copy. He's using the term new size, which Gary will use later, I guess. Then we do it the double. So if you notice, that tiny little wheel in the front is actually the exact same pixels as the inner half of the large tire in the back. Okay? And those holes will come into play later. Then we change the size to quad, so that every pixel is, every bit is 4 pixels, and so it'll go out 32. And same thing, reverse this whole sequence, 2 and then 1. And there's that car, right? All made from that one ROM image, plus another table you don't see, which is which duplicate, which new size, which width, whatever. So at the same time that we're writing graphics and new size, and well, we also write color. So that's where you get this image, same ROM, 2 more tables, or another table, which is the color table. And I can shade the body, I can put a racing stripe on it. This is something we had to do all the time, we hated it. I couldn't put a cockpit, like make it black or brown or red or whatever. It's just a non-bit, and it shows the background through. Still, they look pretty cool. They look like, you know, these beautiful, big, beautiful cars out of an 8-bit object. So now we got holes in the tires because we want to simulate moving tires. And one of the things that we learned very early in 8-bit images is the best animation is a 3-frame animation. If one pixel moves, if you animate and you move it left and right, if you move left and then right, then left and right, it'll just go like this, right? But if you move the 0, the blank in there, you move it 1 pixel this way and 1 pixel that way, and then loop back, it will look like a continuous thing. And so this is a different table showing here on the left, because everything is the same pretty much, except different holes in the tire. And when you end up animating, you can animate them either direction. You can make it look like it's moving forward or backward by cycling between those 3 different tables. Okay, so now this is great. This looks like I can do a car in the middle of the screen, and everything is wonderful. It's got color, it's got new size, it's got animations and everything. But for this game to work, the car has to be able to go smoothly off the screen. If it goes faster than you, it goes off the screen to the right. If it's slower than you, it has to smoothly go off the screen to the left. And we already knew we could do that with an 8-bit object, but how do we do it with a 32-bit object? Because if, as you saw in the first yellow car, if it goes off the edge, it's going to show up over here long before it disappears over there. You know, you're going to see it on both sides.
So the 8-bit guard band only helps to some extent when you have 32-bit wide object.
So now we get really nuts. What we do is we create 8 different cars. And these are slightly different because, well, if you look at the one top right, it only has to show the nose of the car. Well, it's only 8 pixels wide, so it can be completely invisible, and then you can see it 1 pixel at a time. So I can use that frame to show 8 movements of the car coming on to the left side of the screen. And then as soon as it goes past 8, I switch to the one below it. And now 8 pixels of it are being hidden, and you see exactly the 8 pixels of the front of the car. And now you see 9 pixels, 10 pixels, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then I change to the next one. And then I change to the next one. So the ones on the right are when it's coming onto the screen from the left, shows its nose and then the rest of the car. The ones on the left are a car going off the edge, where I truncate the nose. And each one of those tables has to be different because it's changing. I mean, if you look at the top left on the body, it has a bunch of pixels for the whole width of the car, but then I truncate some of those pixels because I don't want a nose on the car. So I had to figure out every place where I needed to have the 4 pixels, the double pixels, the multiple copies. Oh, and in fact, if you look, third one down on the left, it has just a rear tire. So it doesn't even have that extra small piece that's the front tire showing up. So
It's like you took a saw and cut off the part of the car which you don't want to be visible.
So to do that required 8 completely different cars, each one having a table of graphics, a table of sizes, and a table of colors. All right, so we've got those 3 tables times 8. We're now at 24 tables. But if we want to animate, we have to have 3 pictures of every single one of those. Well, actually, we don't have to change the colors, fortunately. So we need whatever the number is. It's 24 of the graphics, 8 of the color, 8 of the size. All of this is going on in a 4K ROM, you know, and that's not a lot of memory. The average icon on your iPhone is 75K or something.
Yeah, 75K,
Something like that.
yeah.
It's like, you know, it's 15 of our games. So we had to do things all, you know, very carefully. And so now how do I can stop? No. Oh, space is the thing that moves it forward. So how do I pause?
Just hit the
There's
play
a pause.
button.
I see the pause button up there.
Yeah.
There's no pause in Atari.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Play. Play. Play.
So were all of the cartridges 4K?
No, some were 2K, some were 4K, and later in life, some were 8K.
Did it cost more to get the bigger?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. They all had an incremental cost.
All right. So here we go. If you're doing one of the longer Grand Prix races, you are going to encounter these narrow bridges. Okay, now these are bridges over water. I told you the Atari does a really nice blue. Well, we use the real nice blue for water. And I told you that I am anal about making black borders between color changes. And the horizontal color changes are really very easy. All I have to do is turn the background color black and wait a line, okay? Putting a leading edge on the water was 10 times harder. That's actually the missile object. The 1-bit object positioned in the right place and drawing in black color. And it's the missile object for the player object that is the enemy cars, because otherwise it would change color. If my red car was up high, that line would be black, black, white, red, blue, 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 instead of black. So it's the other object's missile. So it got positioned in order to make this movement possible. And as you see, when I continue, it moves very smoothly. Now, that's even hard because
That's even harder.
the blue is made out of those playfield objects, those playfield bits that are 4 pixels per bit. And you see the water moving at 1 pixel resolution. Okay, it is moving smoothly at 1 pixel resolution. Well, how do we do that? Well, that's where the ball object comes in. The ball object, just like the player missiles are the color of the player, the ball object happens to be the color of the playfield. Okay, very convenient for me for this. And the ball object can be 8 pixels wide. It can be 1, 2, 4, or 8 pixels wide because Joe DeKeer said, I can just add this couple gates here and I can make that happen. So he added these little features, not knowing if they were ever going to be used. So I'm going to show with this video, this is the playfield. If you watch that blue playfield, when I need to, I add a pixel, 4 of them. I add 4 pixels by adding 1 bit. And then I add it again, and I add it again, and I add it again. So you will see the edge of that blue jutting over 4 pixels. Every 4 pixels that I have to move, it juts over, okay? And then I made transparent or translucent the ball object, which is covering up the edge that changes like that. So am I losing anybody in here?
You actually go into the old code and do this?
I don't remember.
I think he simulated it.
Okay. I thought
So I'm going to go back to the previous slide, if I can. And do we know what's going on here?
There's a play button down the lower left.
Okay. All right. So that's why it's smooth. Because the ball object can move at 160 pixel resolution where the playfield goes in chunks. So now you've seen it again.
So that's called mask. You're masking the edge so that it looks smooth.
You want to explain how hard it is to do that alone, without the mask?
Without the mask, without this car that has to exist across all stripes.
Well, to make this even more interesting, actually what he's not mentioning here too, is that the playfield registers are arranged like a serpentine, it's like a snake, so they're non-linear. You've got some bits that go this way, some bits that go that way,
Yep.
and come back again.
They're copied or reflected.
They're even worse that they're copied and
And
reflected.
they're coming.
Yeah.
So he has to, every scan line, dump all of those playfield registers with new data, so they're not symmetrical or copied.
Unlike
Yes.
where you take the cartridge out and you see these vertical stripes.
Yep.
The playfield would show up as vertical stripes that are duplicated or reflected.
Yes.
So if whatever I put in over here, I have to turn off over here, all during the single scan line of the TV scan.
You got 76 cycles to do.
So this is the guy. And I didn't play very well here, and there's some other fun things, is you crash into the screen, into a guy, well, turn the gray red and make a noise. All right, makes for a nice collision. And one of the things that I put in the game are the occasional oil slick, which is really funny because it throws you around. And yes, you've been there. And it crashes you into other cars. But what you'll notice is at some point during the later levels, you end up seeing a lot of oil slicks. See all those oil slicks? Notice they're black?
Yeah.
Okay. The code is looking at your play and saying there's a bridge coming up. And I'm going to need to make a line on the play field, and I'm going to need it to be black. So I need to have no cars, no opponent cars. They all stop coming, and these all run away, so that I can have that to do that line.
All for that silly
All
little
for that
black
silly
line.
little line. Okay.
It's very creative.
Basically, what you need to understand at this point is any normal programmer would be taking a hose, attaching it to the tailpipe on his car, and running it into his house. Dave is not any programmer, so he decided to actually do all
It gets worse. You can keep a car on the screen
That's actually my favorite thing
by
to do
bashing into
in the
it.
whole game. It's my favorite thing.
And I'm
to
pretty
do.
sure I captured it in this video. Okay.
I don't remember what happened.
Don't let the car
puts on the
get
brakes?
past you.
It puts on the brakes?
Yes, and you want to
Well,
try to force him to be there when the
Remember
bridge
that
comes.
to simulate the motion, you're moving those guys based on their speed relative to you. So you got stopped, which is why the green car went forward, and then the green car goes back. So with this one,
Look, he
I
wants
just-
to leave.
I
but he
just
can't
lined up
leave.
behind this car, and he bumps me, makes me go back, and then he goes forward. But at some point, I have to get him off the screen, or I can't put that little black line on
And
it.
he just slams on his brakes. I'm not moving.
That's funny. Now I want to go home and play this game.
I know. It's a great game.
Yeah.
And what is almost more amazing is we did all this back in the day using graph paper. We would take a piece of graph paper and we would color in a box, and that's a pixel. And then I have to say, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm using 2 pixels per bit, so I have to draw 2 boxes or 4 boxes. And trying to figure out how to create that car And it slowly built up out of, okay, it's this guy, and look at this is cool, because the front tire looks just like the middle part of the back tire, so I don't have to change the graphics, we're gonna duplicate it. And anyway, we did all that, all doing it on graph paper. And all the time wanting to say, I wish we could make a tool. And with that tool, make it easier to make graphics, but we were just too busy making new games. We're under pressure. We had to have a certain new game by Christmas every year and such. But when we decided to do Audacity Games, we spent 3 years working on this before we announced that there's going to be a game coming out. And one of the things, we did a lot of things. We had to create new plastic. We created an injection molded plastic tool. We had to figure out how to do, we want to do everything as well as was done in the past. We did the boxes and the manuals and the beautiful labels, and then the patches and all those kinds of things. But we also built some tools. So at this point, we're going to demonstrate for this crowd only our proprietary tool and ask you to turn off your cameras at this point.